Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Tassel, Baltimore. We call this thing Baltimore Positive. You can subscribe, find us, listen to us. We still have an AM radio station at AM 1570. We're going to be out doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour beginning next week at Sorrento of Arbutus. That's on the 10th. We will have scratch-offs in the Maryland Lottery. We'll be giving away also our partners at GBMC and Farnan and Dermer, the Comfort guys, putting us out on the road for the Maryland Crab Cake Tour. I got a whole bunch of stuff going on. 24th, we're going to be at Greenmount Station in Hampstead. And I'm putting together some new places. And of course, we're going to get back to Coco's, to Costas. I'm hoping to do some World Cup stuff a little later on this month as well. In my previous life, lots of folks wonder, how did your hair get so long? How do you know all these rock and roll guys? What's the sports gig, Nasty? This is my 35th year doing sports radio in Baltimore. Began in 1991 with Kenny Albert. But from 1986 to 1992, I worked at the Baltimore Sun. I was intern boy, agate clerk, newspaper fetcher, Chinese food getter, block searcher for sandwiches at Two Crazy Greeks. Sometimes they run me over to the 7-Eleven to get a hot dog over at Broadway. Sometimes I'd be at the KFC up on North Avenue at like 3 a.m. Jerry Bembry was then news side. He was a journalist. He came down from New York, and he had a wild collection of New York Knicks gear. And he would wear it into the newsroom every single night. And there was, David Simon's over there, and Alvarez is over there, and right, and Dick Irwin is on doing the police blotter. You're laughing at me, and then all of a sudden you became like a sports guy, and you're at ESPN, and you're writing about the NBA and this and that, and I haven't had you on the program probably like 15 years, dude. ESPN, everything you've done, leaving the Baltimore Sun. It is good to visit with you. And you know what I'm doing? And honestly, dude, no offense with you. And I'm trying to find Hilson and his daughter and like half the other rest of the newsroom that's still out there. Um, the Knicks finally made the NBA Finals, and I thought like I can only think of you and Spike Lee. The only two Knicks people I know. So how the hell are you, man? Look at all you got. You've got all your Willis Reed gear out here, your Clyde stuff. You're ready to go, man.
Oh, I'm ready to go. Back here is my Bernard King jersey that was gifted to me by some staff members at the Baltimore Sun when I was there because they knew I loved the Knicks so much. And my daughter had a little jersey with the Bembry on the back, so that's her jersey. And I have my Knicks towel that I bought out. There's a Knicks hat up there,
How
and
many times you
so
take your little girl to the Garden to see the Knicks play when they were 18 and 37 on a cold night in January?
and
I
I'm going
mean,
to tell
the
you,
Knicks have sucked since Ewing, period. Like, and
they were an awful team, and I go back. I'm a Knicks fan since the first championship in '69. So I was 7 years old when they won that title. '73, I was 10 years old and followed that team, and that's
everything that broke
when I
my
fell in
father's
love.
heart is what you're
Yeah,
telling me, right?
that's
Everything
right.
that
That's right.
everything that
That's
broke
right.
Baltimore, probably with the Mets up there, right? I mean, the whole
That's
deal,
right.
right?
Yeah, so that's
Joe
when I fell in
Namath, you
love with
had that
sports.
going on,
Oh, we had sports on lock back then, so that's when I really fell in love with sports. Watching the Knicks, and this is the Willis Reed, David Busher, Bill Bradley, Earl Monroe, Clyde Frazier, Dick Barnett, it's a Phil Action Jackson. So it was just a great time to be a sports fan. And then we had the lean years. I remember my brother in the 1980s worked at the New York Stock Exchange, and they had season tickets to the Knicks, and they would give them tickets because nobody else would go to the games. And so we're sitting in the eighth row, and there's nobody in the garden. And I was, at the age of 20, early 20s, I was a heckler, man. I used to get on those guys all the time, relentlessly
You were the
out
Robin
there.
Ficker of the Garden?
I
Is that
was the Robin Thicke of the Garden. When I got the tickets to go to the games, I was the guy. I remember when Kenny Walker came there, and I would call him Streetwalker, Kenny Streetwalker, Sleepwalker. So, and everybody heard everything I said. So, those were the lean years, Ken Bannister, Eddie Lee Wilkins, Louis Orr. So, I'm glad that the Knicks are back at this level. I'm saying this, and I have my credential from the 1994 finals when they played the Houston Rockets. I covered it for the Baltimore Sun. That was the first finals I ever covered for the Sun. And then I was there in 1999 when they played the San Antonio Spurs. So, yeah, I have some great memories of following this team. Some bad memories, some great memories, and I'm just so happy that they're at a level now where they are competing at a top level, and competing for a basketball championship.
Well, man, you've done a lot of work and a lot of sports writing and stuff. And I would say this, 35 years into this, anybody that really knows me, I've been traveling around seeing Springsteen. I'm running around seeing Rush next week and Brian Ad. I love music, and sports to me has become what I'm known for, and it's what I do. But like, to say that I absolutely enjoy it the way I used to, based on the way I've been treated as a human being, as a Venezuelan, as a fan, as a community member, as a media member. The media gets shit upon in a general sense from Trump down. But what sports has done for me, I don't know where that moment would be for me unless the Houston Oilers come back to life and Dan Pastorini's, giving it off to Campbell and throwing it to Renfro, right? Like that, I would feel that way that I felt when the Ravens won their first championship. And I've talked a lot about that this week. And Raymond Barry passing this week and talking about what the Colts meant to this town. There is a point for all of us, and I think it would ever happen if the Orioles won here, where maybe you'd shed a tear, maybe you wouldn't like him, maybe I don't know, but the stadium's empty right now. The Orioles going through that period where they have this glory thing where Palmer's still associated, the way Clyde was always there, in the suit and
Hmm.
next to Marv or even Kenny, my
Yeah.
dude, and like and you wonder, is it ever going to happen again? I hope it never happens for the Flyers fans, just between you and me. But but seriously, in the vein of the Orioles now being 43 years, I remember going to the Garden when the Rangers in '94 were in the finals, and they were yelling, 1967, whatever the year is that the last
Hmm.
time that anything happened. Man, for
Yeah.
the Knicks, it's been 73, right? Like, right? I mean, and um I grew up, the Knicks were like a, household item. That's why Spike Lee. And it felt
Hmm.
like they should have been the brand in New York that would have been what the Lakers had been or what the Celtics had been, which is competitive enough to at least come up the mountain once more than every quarter of a century for you old guys that have been with it. But sports is hard, and I think it's hard to stay with it when the team stinks forever and ever and ever. And then you get back on and you start thinking about Clyde, or in my case, Cal Ripken or Kiko Garcia or, John Lowenstein, or things that make me happy from 50 years ago. But do you feel the same way? Will you be emotional? Will you want to like climb poles at 34th and 7th if they win? Or would it mean as much to you as it meant in 73?
It will mean as much, and yeah, and I'm pretty sure I will shed a tear, and I will be at the parade if a parade happens, and
So you're not
we
jaded from your time in sports as a sports writer.
oh, not at all. It's you go to games and you control your emotions on the press table because that's your objective to that. But I remember going to that '94 finals, and you're kind of sitting on my hands because I know I have to report it objectively, but I know I'm a fan at heart too. And we had some lean time in the '80s with the Knicks where they had players that nobody wanted. And then in the '90s, we had good teams, but Michael Jordan played in that era and denied the Knicks and other organizations from winning a championship.
Well, the
So
Reggie Miller thing was delicious, right? Like
the
that's still, that simmers 30 years later, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Reggie and the shots and the choke sign. So yeah, it's been an up and down journey, and the 2000s weren't that great. The last time we were in the finals was '99, and Patrick Ewing was hurt, and so we had no shot of winning in '99. He didn't play in the finals. So we our team, and this is the only time, Nestor, that I can say we, right? I don't say what we with anybody else in terms of sports, but with the Knicks, I always say we.
That's why I
And
brought you on, because I know
yeah,
that's who you are.
yeah, and we have a strong team. We're healthy, and we're going up against the Alien. We're playing the Alien and Wemby in this NBA Finals, and it's going to be a tough task. But I really like our ability to bring a title back to New York, and if it happens, I'm going to be just as happy as anybody out there. You see the Knicks fans going crazy in the streets, and I might be one of those guys.
Are you in New York? Do you live in New York these days?
No, I have a place I'm actually in Silver Spring, Maryland. I have a place in Brooklyn too.
You still live here
Um,
then. So, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
for your
yeah, I
days in
still
the
live
Baltimore
local.
Sun. By the way, Jerry Bembry is here, longtime ESPN, undefeated. My dude, I haven't had you on in a long, long time. I mean, before video. So at least I get
Yeah.
to see all the Knicks stuff. I guess from my heart to you, and it's not even on the court or off because you're not even supposed to win this thing. I've been in New York a lot lately. I've fallen in love with New York during this century. And when I worked there there, Sporting News 25 years ago, and they put me up at the Marriott Marquis in $800 rooms and Mickey Mantle. I didn't like New York then. I had all that Baltimore angst, that Jeffrey Mayer thing was, like all of that going on. And I love going to New York now, and I like drinking beer around the Garden. I like going to the Garden. I was at the Garden 2 weeks ago to see Springsteen. I always say anything at the Garden's worth more money because it's just such a magical experience to be at the Garden. Even though Dolan's an idiot, and if he sees me, get my face. It's my facial recognition. Don't let me in, you billionaire goof you. So there's part for me where if that were the prick that owned my team, I'm at that point in my life where these billionaires have gotten this shitler running the country right now and bombing people and doing crazy things that, like, I'm not anti-billionaire. I'm anti-billionaire taking my picture when I walk in the Garden, but I would go to the Sphere this weekend. I would go to the Garden last weekend. It is amazing that the Knicks have been, I mean, the Oakley thing and how their alums were treated at various points, that New York bubbles all of that. But they're in the semifinals a week and a half ago, and I'm there when things were bubbling. And I remember being there when the Rangers were in the finals in '94, and it was absolutely electric. And seeing that throng of people, and I did it a bunch of times with the Yankees too. Like the Yankees won plenty. I was at Yankee Stadium 3 different times when the place went crazy and champagne's flying, the White Horse and Wade Boggs in '96. So I've seen crazy stuff. But dude, I remember you walking around the Baltimore Sun newsroom 40 years ago wearing that Knicks jacket that Spike Lee made famous during the before Ewing was even there. Ewing might have still been at
Yeah.
Georgetown at the time. But nonetheless, for you, you haven't won. Like you haven't had that thing like Orioles fans. And I guess that's my feeling as I put Oriole Park behind me to say, you get this close. Like the Orioles got to the ALCS in 14, which I thought during the Angelos era, a miracle. And didn't pitch a drop, didn't win a game, barely scored runs, barely scored runs since. For you winning this thing, what encapsulate that for me as the writer, Jerry Bembry, because there are very few things left in life where you've been chasing your team for 50 years, waiting for them to win, and they get close. You already think they might. This is a tough week. You already said that. They might not win. But my God, what if you win 4 games to 1 and catch lightning in a bottle here this week? How are you going to react to that?
I'm on a text string with a bunch of New York Knicks fans. Mike Fletcher, former Baltimore Sun, Evening Sun reporter, is on that text string. And
What's up, Fletch?
I mean, yeah, that's right. And we just go nuts on every game. So we're actually going to the casino on Wednesday to watch the game as a group, and kind of take it all in. And so, it's we're going to get together, watch the game, uh, be excited, and we all love our chances with this thing. And um, it's you're a fan, and even through the lean times, like you get a lot of fans who jump ship. So a lot of people will follow LeBron where he goes, or if the Chicago Bulls are no longer good, they're going to follow another
That
team.
is a modern thing. If Lamar ever left the Ravens, they'd lose a portion of their fan base because they're Lamar fans. They're not Ravens fans,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
but I'm a diehard though. I've
Oh, right.
always
I mean, and
been
that's what I love about you, man.
always been a Knicks fan through the thick and thin, and so to be at this level, and we for the last couple of years we've been close. I went to the Garden a couple of years ago when they played the Miami Heat in the playoffs. I think it was the conference semifinals, and just the excitement in the building is just tremendous. And you're right. You said you went to a concert recently at the Garden. Everything is different. The energy is different. I've been at Staples or whatever they call that arena now,
There's
and a
nothing
lot of the
like it. The
other
Garden's the greatest place to see anything. It really
the
is.
it really is. So I'm excited to see the energy. Sorry I won't be there for the games when they get to New York, but
You don't have 10 grand
um,
to sit courtside this time.
yeah, you know what? And the media seating a little different, Nestor, because in '94 the media sat right behind the basket. Right now, if you're not a local beat writer, you're sitting at the top of the building at this newly created area at the top of the building, and the
The glass
sidelines.
bridge, is that where
Yes,
you're
that's
okay?
it. That's it.
I
Exactly.
sat
The
there.
site.
Now, listen, I sat there for game 7 of Rangers and Capitals a decade ago. I ran into Trump that night of all things.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that was but it was game 7, Caps, Trotz, the whole deal, Ovechkin, they lost. They should have won game 5. They had game 5, they were up with 30 seconds left and blew it. but they won the cup
Mhm.
the next year, so it's fun. But I was up there on that glass bridge. It's the greatest hockey seat in the world.
Yes, yes. For hockey, right? For basketball is a little different. It's a
Well,
little
you were
different
all
with basketball.
spoiled. We all were, dude. I
Yes,
mean,
we were.
dude,
Yes, we were.
I covered Dr. J's last game at the Spectrum and last game at the Capitol Center. So I was a playoff game against Jack Sick, and Mike Wilbin was sitting next to me. But we were in the middle deck at the Spectrum. Even then, Cats owned the team. They gave us potato chips, I think, in the pregame spread, and flat sodas. I remember it. But on the court at the Capitol Center with Abe. I mean, I was on the row next to the announcer. I forgot his name, but he had a great voice. Mark, what's his name? Mark. But either way, the announcer at the Capitol Center. I sat on the. I mean, Dr. J would spill into my lap if the ball went the wrong way. I mean, we had seats back in the day. We really did, right?
Oh, it was great. Even when I was a beat writer with the Baltimore Sun, and we sat right near the bench. But I'm gonna tell you a story, real quick about Dr. J's last game. So his last game in New York, I wanted to be there. I think I was still a news writer for the Baltimore Sun. I hadn't shifted to sports yet, and so I was trying to find an angle to get into the Garden. And there was a guy I mentioned him earlier, Eddie Lee Wilkins, who played for the Knicks, who was a guy that may have done 2 years in the league, and I called his hometown paper in Georgia and say, hey, I have an opportunity to go write a feature story in Eddie Lee Wilkins at the Garden. Would you guys be interested? And they said yes. And so that's how I got my credential to see Dr. J's last game at the Garden is through Eddie Lee Wilkins of the Knicks, who is
Look at you
one of those
angling back into. You're a real reporter,
angling.
man.
You
You're a real
always have to
reporter.
angle, always have to work the angles. And I had a great seat. I was like in the third row, covering Eddie Lee Wilkins. So yeah, the game is different now. It's we don't cater to the media anymore, unfortunately. And I'm not saying cater to, but at least treat them a little differently. And everything is about money. And I miss those days where you can actually be on top of the action. You can hear the conversations on the court. That was a great era of sports, and I sorely miss that.
John Eisenberg, our former colleague, calls it the great era of sports writing. Is what he called it.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
golden age of sports writing, I think, is what his words were for it.
Yeah, and speaking of John, I directed a documentary about Coppin State a couple of years ago for ESPN. I don't know if you've seen it, but you should. If you haven't, I'll send you a link.
Please
And
do. I
yeah,
would have
yeah.
worn my Coppin gear.
Oh yeah.
I'm
And
Coppin
so
sponsored here with Dr. Jenkins, so
that
sure,
that's
absolutely.
and so John Eisenberg was one of the people we interviewed. John Eisenberg, Paul McMullen, and we did a
You did a
documentary.
thing on Fang on
We
Fang.
we did an ESPN documentary on Coppin State and the rise of that program from nothing in the 1970s, going into the 80s, and to building that program where they beat Maryland and they beat Missouri and they beat all of these top schools and became a threat. And they won that 1997 NCAA tournament game against South Carolina. So we did it from the rise when Coppin when Fang arrived until when they won that
I
championship. So I'll send
definitely
you a
want
link
to
to that
see that.
documentary.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, I
yeah.
absolutely need to see that. Jerry Bembry is here. He and I have been friends and colleagues for 40 years. I
Long
arrived at the
time.
Baltimore Sun on January the 6th, 1986. I was 17 years old. My parents had to sign a permission slip so I could join the newspaper guild, and then we went on strike.
Hmm.
I was out holding the strikes. Yeah, out on the back
I
of
remember
Guilford.
that. I remember that.
When did you get there? Because I was right around that time. We were,
So you got there in '86. I got there in '85, and I was a news reporter, and they hired me to replace David Simon. David Simon was the night police reporter, and they wanted to shift him over to day cops to work
And that's why I
alongside
knew you
Roger
so well. We
Twigg.
were
Yeah,
always in the newsroom late at night because I worked 11 to 7. I worked the
yeah,
overnight shift
and I
putting
worked
the
the
evening
overnight shift as
sun. Yeah.
well.
And Dick
Yeah,
Irwin, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
and dude, I damn sight brought you some Chinese food back from Young's. I know I did. I don't know. I don't know
Probably
what
did.
you put in the order, but that box was big when I carried it back.
Oh man, because you mentioned the two crazy Greeks. I think you mentioned that,
Oh,
and
I totally brought you a
yeah,
sausage with peppers and onions or something at 3 in the
and
morning.
and I
No
remember
doubt about it.
Raphael Alvarez introducing me to Matthews over at Eastern Avenue in East Baltimore, which is great pizza, the best
Oh,
best pizza
yeah.
in Baltimore. So those were the days, and that was. I mean, I really enjoyed that era of the Baltimore Sun, that era of journalism. Even though I wanted to be a sports reporter at the time, just to come into the news and cover the overnight shift with the police beat being exposed to all the chaos that was Baltimore.
When did you
It
become a
was great.
sports writer? It wasn't long. Like I left on Martin Luther King Day, January 15th of 92. I was there 6
Hmm.
years and 9 days
Hmm.
at the Sun. Had a lot of bylines, man. Like it's amazing
Yeah,
how much music I wrote, how much sports I wrote, how much hockey I wrote. Like that those are my things. But I'm the president of the newsroom all night, ready to go
yeah,
get you guys food. I mean, I was just all I wanted to do was work. And still to
yeah,
this day, I'm still 4 in the morning. I like to work. It's my dad and
yeah.
me. I just grew up that way in Dundalk. But like, I know you loved sports so much, and you hung out in the sports department, and you were just angling to get into sports. Milton Kent
I
was another guy. Like there were a lot of people that used the news to get into sports. I was already in sports. All I wanted to do was hang out with rock stars and hammerjacks and cover hockey games. I wanted to be Ken Rosenthal. I mean, I wanted to be
uh,
the baseball beat writer. That
yeah,
was where my heart and I really wanted to be a columnist. And I turned out 40 years later to be all that in a bag of donuts.
uh,
But I am so indebted to you, all of you that were adults when I was a knucklehead who taught me the right way to do things and what a fact is and what fiction is and how to ask questions and how to press on bullshit. And that's why I say to people to this day, I'm like, I grew up in a newspaper newsroom when I was 17 years old, and all of you were my parents about what's right, what's wrong, and what's a fact. So I find myself in this strange situation, but like you pushed your way into sports and you never went back to anything other than sports, right?
yeah.
Once you
That
came
was
over,
it.
right?
And my angle was that, and you're absolutely right in describing it that way. On my off days, working as a police reporter, and then I became a courts reporter, and then I covered government. On my off days, I went over to the sports department and said, "Hey, can I cover some high school games for you guys?" And so I was doing some of the local high school. I was at Lake Clifton. I was at Dunbar. I was doing those high school games on my off days. And then after years, a couple of years of doing that, I remember Marty Kaiser asking, said that, do you want to work in sports? We have an opening. And so I came in and I did Navy football, and I covered Coppin and UMBC and Towson and all the local
Were you
schools.
Elliot Usulak era?
I was there. I covered that area. I sure did
Oh
with
man, I
Navy
tell
football.
those
Yeah,
stories of going down to
yeah.
that boathouse on Tuesday. I covered the team that Alton Grizzard, who was murdered
I was
later.
on. I was covering that squad.
So
Yeah,
you and
Grizzard.
I
That.
had a
Yeah,
lunch together. I mean,
yeah.
I
I'm
was on that
sure
beat.
we were eating
What
that steak.
happened
We
was
were eating that steak.
whoever was
Yeah,
on the beat, maybe Doug Brown couldn't do it because of
yeah,
something else, and
yeah,
Jack would send me anywhere.
yeah,
God, I love Jack Gibbons.
yeah. Oh,
I
Jack's a
love him
great
so
guy.
much more than he loves me, but I love him.
Yeah.
And like he sent me down. He would send me anywhere. He sent me to do a women's PGA golf final in New
Oh,
Jersey
wow,
because
wow.
Reg had it coming down here to Baltimore the next year with Annika
Yeah,
Strom. So like
yeah,
I just became I covered triathlons. I covered
yeah.
stuff where I didn't even know the rules of the sport. And Jack didn't
Mhm.
care. He's like, you'll learn, you'll write. He cared so much about me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Those guys would send me to stuff I was not qualified to cover. And I
yeah,
don't know if
yeah.
you were qualified to cover government or news, you probably were figuring all that out as you were going along, right?
Yeah, I was figuring out, and even throwing in the mix in the sports department. They one of my first assignments in sports was to cover an NCAA regional, and you have the first round games. I think it was in where was it? I was in Boise, Idaho, I think, and I'm covering like a slate of 6 games in one day or 8 games in one day. And I'm like, I'm used to covering one game and on deadline. It's like, how do you do this? I'm at the first game, and now I have to go into get the interviews for the first game and miss the second. So I didn't know it. And so it was just kind of thrown into the fire to do it. I may have missed the deadline that day, but
Remember fact
you,
checking when there was no internet? Remember that?
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. And so yeah, thrown into the mix to really learn how to do that. And I covered the Final Four my first full year in sports, which was great. And so yeah, they gave the Baltimore Sun gave me some opportunities. Jack Gibbons, Marty Kaiser, Molly Dunham,
Oh
just
yeah.
a great people to work with. We had such a great staff there, and so yeah, I enjoyed my years at the Baltimore Sun, man. Just a lot of great memories there.
These days with what you've done in feature writing and long form and going out and sourcing out stories at ESPN, give me just a little update on you and what you've learned because we haven't talked about any. I mean, we talked about the Knicks and what it means to you in your heart and your fandom and that's why I brought you on. But I mean, you've covered heavy issues and certainly your entity's taken on heavy issues culturally that I've already alluded to here in this thing. We're in a weird space with sports and about to with this sports washing of World Cup coming here
Yeah.
that like the bad guys and the mafia with the money, they're running our government. They've ruined sports. I don't know what this Rubenstein guy is for my baseball team. I remember when Bisciotti was a real guy from Severna Park. Now he's a guy who doesn't wear socks on a yacht and banning the media, doesn't show up, doesn't front face the fans. The Justin Tucker sleaze from like just all of it. It's made me not cranky or angry, just not so jaded and wide-eyed that I can be a fanboy after doing this work for 40 years, Jerry. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not 15 in the newsroom anymore running around in my Oilers jersey. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right. Yeah, my approach now is that I've done two documentaries for ESPN. So I did the documentary on Coppin State back in 2021, and last year I did a documentary on Kobe Bryant. That's on ESPN Plus, and it was a different approach to it. It was called 8 on 8, and it was like 8 individuals who are just people who had these random encounters with Kobe Bryant, and so I'll send you a link to that one as well. So that's my what how I want to approach the business now. I think that covering sports on a day to day, I can do it, but I get more enjoyment from the video aspect of producing and directing, and so that's the lane I'm into right now. My daughter, she co-directed the Coppin State documentary with me. She won the Academy Award. I don't know if you see the poster for Summer of Soul. She was a producer on Summer of Soul with Questlove, and they won the Academy Award, her team. So and she's a producer with ESPN right now, and so it's in the
I
family,
need to
and
get her on the show then. She's the big
yeah,
shot in the family,
she's
man.
she's the big shot right now. But yeah, the
I don't want
video
to kick you
approach is something.
sideways. Say once the Knicks lose in the finals, I'll get your daughter. But if they win, I'll get you both back. All right.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, see, it's a different approach to storytelling. You get a little deeper into it with the video aspect, and that's what I enjoy doing right now. So that's I can see that being my future, doing more documentaries and more video production.
Man, you came a long way from wearing that Knicks thing, running around with Dick Irwin on the murder beat in Baltimore in
Yeah,
'86, right?
that's right. And my daughter wears that jacket now. It's up in New York now, and so every now and then she'll drop by my place, especially when the Knicks are hot, and she'll put that jacket on. So yeah.
She looks like Spike Lee in that jacket because everybody looks like Spike Lee in that jacket, right?
Yeah, I guess from a height standpoint, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I've had Spike on the show before. I mean, you've encountered Spike a million
Oh
times being
yeah,
down the court, right?
oh yeah. He's diehard, passionate. My place in Brooklyn is not far from his studio in Brooklyn. My place is in Clinton Hills, and he's in Fort Greene, and I live down the street from where his dad, Spike grew up. So, yeah, Brooklyn is, even though the Nets are in Brooklyn, Brooklyn is strongly behind the New York Knicks and the whole city. And I'm meeting Knicks fans everywhere who are coming out of the woodwork now because the Knicks are winning, and so it's a really, really good time for the city.
I got a color TV so I can see
The
the
Knicks
Knicks
play
play
basketball.
basketball.
That's right.
So
That's
I,
right.
I, I collect I collect early 1970s belt buckles. So there's
Oh,
your
nice.
so
Oh,
there's my last question, and it's not a trick question, and I don't know
okay.
the answer. Okay,
Okay.
so when I grew up, early 70s, I liked reading and stuff. My parents turned me on to the electric company. And I
Yeah.
remember they had a hot shot thing that Willis Reed did, and Morgan Freeman was a part of the
Hmm.
electric company
Hmm.
back in the
Oh, yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And they had a whole Knicks thing about hot shot, and they featured the Knicks, and I was 5 years old. My dad hated the Knicks because of the bullets and because of, and all of that. Um, my aunt lived on Knickerbocker Lane in Newark,
Hmm.
Delaware, all of my childhood. So I would go up there
Hmm.
and see Knickerbocker Lane, and I'd say Knickerbocker. I don't know what the hell a Knickerbocker is. Do you know what a Knickerbocker? I really don't. It's like a Hoya or like some of these sports things that I'm like, I know what a Raven is. I know what an Oriole. What's a Knickerbocker? I don't really even know.
I can't even tell you, Nestor.
I'm going to
I
Google
know
it
the
right now. I didn't
Knickerbockers.
know.
Yeah, go
I,
ahead. Yeah, because I'm
I want to
curious.
find out what is a. I hope it's not anything really bad. I think it was
No, I
like,
don't think so. I think it's.
aren't Knickerbocker shorts halfway shorts?
I thought
It,
there was like an older looking guy dressed up. in a
No,
certain way in a different era. I don't know. I don't know.
Knickers or pants, or my mother and
Pants. Yeah, I remember.
father,
Yeah.
they're like the pants that go below your knees, like from the
Right. Right.
20s and
Right.
30s.
Yeah. I
But
remember that terminology.
are you ready for this?
Oh
Knickerbocker,
yeah.
according to Merriam-Webster, established in 1828. Knickerbockers, Knickers, number two, is a descendant of the early Dutch settlers of New York. A
Hmm.
native or resident of the city or state of New York, used as a nickname. If you are a Knickerbocker, you are a New York settler.
Yeah. And so the logo, I'm looking up the logo that I remember, and you probably can't see it here, but that's the New York Knicks logo. It's an old guy with the Knickerbockers on. So that's what I remember.
Oh, so
Yeah.
He did have
Yeah.
Knicks on, like short pants.
Yeah, yeah, he had the Knickerbocker shorts, and yeah,
I'm
so
so glad we
that's what I
discussed this,
remember.
dude.
That's what
And
I
this is the
remember.
logo on your hat. So this is the old school.
That's right.
This is a 1969 NBA Properties belt buckle.
Wow,
So there you
that's
go.
great. That's great.
Right
That's
off the
great.
waist of Clyde, who's the greatest guy in the world. I mean,
He's the greatest guy. He's a
Clyde's just so
terrible
awesome.
dresser, but he's a great guy, though.
He is Natalie attired, and I'll never have
Yeah,
you say anything else. Jerry Bembry is here, the man, the myth, the legend. This is a Jerry Bembry joint. They're going to play at least 4 games in the NBA Finals. Good luck with Wemby. Good luck with the whole thing. I'm pulling for you. I mean, I'm not a hater. I love New York.
yeah. I listen. Wemby's going to have a ton of opportunities to win his title. Let my Knicks and their veterans on that squad come away with the title this year, and I'm pretty confident that they can do
One of the greatest shirts I've ever seen. I was in New York about a month ago seeing Springsteen. I saw him in Jersey at the Newark. I had never been to that building, cavernous building. But
it.
so I'm
Yes.
walking down 28th Street, my favorite pizza place, a place called Tradita's. They brag about Brooklyn pizza, but it's at 28th and Broadway, 27th
Okay,
and
I'm
Broadway.
gonna check
So
it out next time I'm
I'm
there.
walking north, Tradita's, Tradita, best pizza in New York. I love it. Get a margarita. So I'm walking up 29th Street. I got my box, and I feel like Tony Manero in Saturday Night Fever, except I'm not
Uh,
I'm not over in Brooklyn. But I'm eating my pizza and I look up and a guy's got a shirt on, sweatshirt, and it looks like I heart New York, like I love New York. But it said, and you're a writer, so you're gonna love this. I are heart NY. Irony with the heart. And I
wow.
thought, it is irony that I love New York so much. And I said to my wife, there you go. There's your idea for a birthday gift or a Christmas gift for me.
Yeah,
Irony that I love
yeah,
New York, you
yeah,
know? So
yeah.
good luck to you, all right? And I
Thank
appreciate
you
you
so much.
visiting. I need to see that Coppin State piece. I need to get your daughter on. And at some point, I need you to walk me around Brooklyn and show me around, get me some pizza, okay?
Sounds good. I'm gonna send you those links today, and yeah, we'll get some good pizza in Brooklyn. Absolutely.
40 years of Jerry Bembry. He and I used to sit courtside. And, I was telling an Elliot Uzelac story. I always tell my wife, I would go down there that one year that I covered Navy football with you, 88, 89, out in Grizzard.
Hmm.
And we would go
Hmm.
down there on like Tuesday or Wednesday, and we would have the media day, and they would have steaks. And they would serve us all steaks and potato. You remember this,
Oh,
and
yeah,
a
it's
salad.
fabulous.
And as a media guy at 21, get a steak dinner for lunch on a Wednesday in Annapolis made it worth the drive. And it was totally you had to go past all the Marine barracks and this and
Hmm.
that, and the Naval
Hmm.
this and the Academy that, and Marine Corps Stadium. And we get down there, and Elliot Uzelac would come up to the podium. He'd say, "We had the boys today in the pool to stimulate their appetites. You and the media have yourselves a steak. Get over there and get yourself a steak." It's pretty good, Elliot Uzelac, huh? That's
That's
not
pretty
bad.
good. That's pretty good. That's
38
pretty good.
years later. Jerry Bembry's my dude, ESPN, formerly of the Baltimore Sun, currently a Marylander, pulling for the New York Knickerbockers. And I learned what a Knickerbocker is, and you're one of them because you're a real New Yorker. I'm Nestor. We are WNST AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. And there is your NBA Finals preview.